me tell you a little story now. I got this job, and I want some money. But my boss doesn't know how to count, honey, no, I swear. I only got 25 cents on my last paycheck. I said, oh, no. I should have got about $200, you know what I'm talking about, baby. And let me tell you something else. He doesn't know how to tell time, and we work from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 9 o'clock the next day. Oh, yeah, he's got to learn some math. I want a paycheck. I want $200. Oh, baby.
Tell Peter he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying.
What are you doing? Just staring.
Come on, guys. No more spitwise on the set.
Baby! Ready on cue.
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set. Quiet in the dark.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
Yes, here we are for another week of the Jam. Up this time, we have the world of numbers and mathematics. We're gonna go to the first video game design university, plus we'll have some other things later on in the show. I remember I hated math class when I was in school as a young kid, you know? I mean, it was like the numbers, the tables, the homework. I mean, I was like, what's the point? But the fact is, there is an element of mathematics in everything you do, everything that you see.
Hello, you primordial bags of sludge, you two!
Oh, yes, he's Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Ba-da-da.
Yes, it is I, the self-absorbed and all-knowing one. It is Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Kung kung. Perhaps a brief background of today's subject would be helpful. Mathematics first arose from the practical need to measure time and to count. Thus, the history of mathematics begins with the origins of numbers and recognition of the dimensions and properties of space and time. The earliest evidence of primitive forms of counting occurs in notched bones and scored pieces of wood and stone brought about by the earliest incarnation of Martha Stewart. You know Pythagoras, Sir Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, not the Titanic guy, Galileo, Einstein. I had all of those ideas a long time ago, but do I ever get credit for it? No, because I'm just a head in a jar.
What was that?
What are you doing just staring at that TV screen? Don't you know that we're trying to do a show here?
I bet the last time you played a computer game, you didn't think about how much work goes in behind the scenes to make it. Well, now there's a university that teaches you how to program video games. It's called Digipen, and it's in Redmond, Washington. What makes Digipen a unique university?
Well, I think what makes it unique is the fact that, you know, the students really spend a lot of time focusing on the fundamentals. It's not an easy course. It's not something where you can, it's not a quick type of program. You really have to learn the fundamentals, and I think that's really, really important here.
When somebody turns on the game box, people have no idea about how much mathematics goes behind the scenes in order to make the game function. Mostly the graphics, the animation, the motion. So they're actually doing it in a three-dimensional world. And that three-dimensional world is a complete mathematical world that we have computed and we have actually stored in the memory of the machine.
3D programming uses quite a lot of math, does it not?
Definitely. As an artist, it's something that we also take for granted to some degree. I mean, we do appreciate what the programmers have to do, but when I create a character using commercial software, I'm not using extensive math. What I need to use are sort of more creative skills. I need to be able to understand proportion and color and character design. For the game programmer, though, to actually take my character and make it move in real time the way the player wants, there's a tremendous amount of math, and certainly it's not something that should be taken lightly.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Saw playing has been going on for over 200 years, and there's a lot of math in saw playing. And it's a combination of compression and tension that creates that sound wave, and it's actually a pure sine wave. You can actually see the sound wave itself. I'll pour a little sand on the blade. And you can actually see the sound wave develop in a very interesting way. Watch the blade itself. Now it's throwing off the sand, and it's creating perfect parallel lines here, which means it's just a simple sound wave. Here's an A440 wrench, which just means that it has 440 frequencies per second. So you can not only tune your car, but you can tune the National Symphony Orchestra with this wrench. And then I have a tone bar that's twice as high, which would be 880 cycles or frequencies per second, which of course is fascinating in mathematics. To make music, you've got to understand all of these frequencies and build your instruments and your music in relationship to them. And then there's that 880 cycles per second, and you see it makes it half the size of the wave. This is natural mathematics. And this exact pattern flows right out as a sound wave, and it goes right into your ear.
Crucial.
The jar is strictly for Larry's head, and that is all.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So tell me about this ride.
Mr. Freeze is a brand new linear induction motor roller coaster here at Six Flags St. Louis, and it's one of the tallest and fastest in Missouri. What we do is you take a train in the station here using linear induction motors, and we launch a train from 0 to 70 miles per hour in about 4 seconds. We go through a track that's 1,382 feet in length. The train goes through that, comes to a boost tower at the end. At that point, you're only halfway through the ride. And these motors push the train an additional 50 feet in the air to a height of 226 feet. So from that point, the train then falls and comes back through the entire track length in reverse. Linear induction is same as a rotational motor, but now we've cut it and laid it out flat, and we put a motor on top of each other. And fins on the side of the cars over here, they pass between these motors, and it creates a magnetic wave that accelerates the train. And you get this exciting, exhilarating, heart-stopping launch. And there it goes.
Did math also play a part in this design, or was that just something that you guys thought looked cool?
Well, it did start off as something that looked neat and cool, as you say. Everybody gives the analogy that we took a paperclip and bent it into a shape. But from that point, then math needs to be applied in order to figure out the forces and the speeds that are required and necessary to give you a safe and exciting, thrilling ride.
$3,004,173,005.
And here he is with a brain teaser and the hair to prove it.
It's time to ask Dr. Gravity.
Welcome back to Adventures in the Educational Stuff with me. I'm Dr. Andy und Gravity from some country very far away, which I'm keeping a big secret because it's a party later on. And today we're talking about mathematicalness and all that kind of stuff and how it applies to your regular life. It's kind of fun because you think you can escape it, but you can't. So what we got here today is we got a really ordinary goldfish in the ordinary bowl from the ordinary goldfish bowl plates we call the pet shops. Hello fishies, how we doing the fishies? I think they're catatonic. Okay, we got a mathematical question ready for you now. The mathematical question is, if you got 200 fish in this fish tank, of which of course I know you only got 3, but you got to use your imagination just a little bit, people. Can you do that for me? Oh, you're such good friends to use your imagination. You got 200 fish in the bowl, and 99% of those little fishies are guppies. Now, how many of the guppies do you have to take out of the bowl in order to make sure that 98% of the fishes in the bowl are guppies? You got the answer? Well, tell me.
Nah, chill.
Calling Scully. Come in, Scully. That's right, I'm back. Because there's more conspiracies that you're not aware of. Even in the area of, math. Yes, the greatest conspiracy of all is something they like to call cryptography. What is cryptography? Does it have anything to do with the ancient ruins of Egypt? Does it have anything to do with my chiropractor? Yes! No! Cryptography is the breaking of secret codes. Yes. What does that have to do with math? Follow me and come quickly. If you take a small number, like 15, and you break it down into its multiplicated numerals, well, it's quite simple. But not every number is that simple. Take a number of millions and millions of digits. We're talking length, the size of your great-aunt Bertha's girth. You know, the one with the beard. That's the kind of number that if you break it down into its 2 separate multipliers, you break the code and therefore have a secret that even the greatest computer would take millions and hundreds and dozens and maybe 1 year to accomplish. Those kind of codes are the things they break for codes for the CIA, the FBI, the ABC, all that. That's all part of it. Weird. You just don't know the truth because it's something, my little buddy, you can't handle.
Is my double latte here yet?
So what current program are you working on now?
Each of us is making our own game engine, which is not actually specifically a game in and of itself, but it's sort of the structure for a game. And once you've made your game engine, it's like a skeleton for your game. There's no specifics to it. I mean, you haven't thought of a specific game that you want to make with rules and graphics and things like that. But what you're doing is you're writing all of the routines so that you can take this game engine when it's done and you can make several different games very quickly.
So what are your plans when you graduate?
Well, I'd like to make great games for a good company. I mean, that's why I got into this and I think that's why most of the students are here, is that they have a love for math and science and games in general. All of us play the games, not just work on them and make them. We play in between classes, we play after school, and we play at home. It's going to be the dream job. It's like, what do I love to do and how can I get paid to do it? And I love to play games, and I'm out to prove my mom wrong, that I can get paid to do it.
And a little bit sharp.
Come in, Mort calling Orson. For the love of Pete, would you? Yes, we're back. Hello, world. It is I, and I am here to declare the truth of the conspiracy. And I know the secrets, all the secrets, right here in the middle of your neighborhood. Why? Because they're taking a census, and it has nothing to do with the computerized chips in the base of your skull. It has everything to do with your address. That's right. Years from now, every 10 years, the government takes a census where they combine your address and your age, and through that make a code where they know everything about you. Send it off to some abandoned grain silo in Iowa, which stands for Idiots Out Wandering Around, where these people take the number.
We interrupt this transmission to apologize for the comments of the previous character. We like Iowa. People from Iowa are very nice, and they raise corn and many, many other fine things. This person is an idiot. Thank you.
It's my life mission to juggle where no man has juggled before.
You might wonder what mathematics has to do with juggling? Well, mathematics has often been described as the science of patterns, where juggling you could think of as controlling patterns in time and space. Well, how do you connect math with juggling? Well, imagine that time goes by in discrete little dots here, and if I put a 3, that means I take the ball and I throw it and it comes down 3 time units later. This is time moving that way. So if I put another 3 and another 3, suppose we put 3s under all these little time dots like this. Then this ball should come down 3 time units later, 3 clicks, and 3 later. Now if we put all these 3s together, it looks like this. This is the basic 3-ball cascade, which is the foundation of all the juggling tricks. The big new discovery made just a few years ago by jugglers and mathematicians. You have your dots here, but now you can put different numbers underneath them. You can put something like a 3, a 4, a 5, a 3, a 4, a 5. And what does that mean? This ball comes down 3 ticks later, this one 4 later, this one 5 later, and you keep it up. 3, 4, 5. So you might say, what patterns can you juggle and what patterns can't you? For example, could you do 3, 5, 4? 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, and so forth. If you tried to actually do that, draw the picture, 3 goes there, the 5 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and the 4 goes, goes there. A big collision. You hate that in juggling. Bad throw. Sudden gust of gravity, we'll do it again. That's 5.
Well, that was pretty cool. Come on, guys, no more spitwads on the set.
We're here once again with Lee, engineer extraordinaire, on this rainy day in Gotham City, talking about Batman the Ride.
Similar to most roller coasters, Batman takes you up a lift hill. That's the tall hill that takes you up to a height of 105 feet. When you come off that hill, then you enter a series of a loop, a corkscrew, and then a second loop. But each of those elements is successively smaller. The lift starts at 105 feet. The first loop is at 77 feet. It's getting up to its highest height. And you can watch as it comes around, now we get its most speed right there at the bottom. And then it gives it the necessary speed to get through the top. You can see that reason for the loop being a teardrop shape. It's called a clothoid loop.
Clothoid loop.
Clothoid loop. As it is, you can see the very top is a tighter, smaller radius, and the curves coming into it are bigger radiuses. The reason for that is we can take our speed and we can take the radius using math again. Now we figure out the g-force. What we want to do is, with the faster speeds, you want a bigger radius to keep your g-force lower. As the speed gets slower, now we can make our radius tighter, and we keep the g-force almost constant through that loop.
And the answer to the mathematical question is 100 guppies, 100 guppies. Because you see, it's not an option to like cut one of the fishes in half, because that would be dangerous. And then we have to call like the people for the ethical treatment of guppies or fish, which would be paid for good food for us.
Hey, zip it about down, hey. Zip it down, let's say I'm on. I say, oh, baby, I say, E-Baby's the baby, baby, oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Zip it back, I'm saying a while, yeah. I'm telling you. It's about me back. I said, what do you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
All musical instruments and practically everything in nature has its own resonant frequency, and my wrench, this 2 3/4 wrench, happens to be a B flat. but it also has all of the overtones, B flat, D, and F, and I can even isolate these overtones as we go.
Hello again, all you fleshy water sacks, glob glob.
Oh, yes, he's Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Ba-da-da.
Yeah, we get the message. We heard you the first time. Now, as you've heard, mathematics is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Yes, everywhere. Shut up, I will. And you can't get much more mathematical than musical. Oh! Which brings me to Euclid. No, he wasn't one of the cousins on the Dukes of Hazzard. He was a different character altogether. And I sat on one of his shelves from about 323 to 283 BC. He's the guy who wrote the Elements of Euclid. Clever title, Euclid, which is why it's one of the most translated, published, and studied books in the Western world. Yeehaw! Got me in the kitchen there, partner. He wasn't a mathematician so much as a teacher of geometry. He also wrote books on optics and the elements of music, which in the 3rd century, despite popular opinion, did not include Hansen.
Honestly, you've got to believe this cat's been in this jar way too long.
You play this glass right here. Get your fingers good and let it go around the rim.
There's people in danger in this very neighborhood from the conspiracy of the house numbers and people's ages. I'm incognito to see if I can sneak on them without their bearing. There they are! Kids, you must abort mission. Clear out of the area. Those bubbles aren't from a sauna. Who made the bubbles? Well, I know that. I don't want you to have problems. So if you want to be free from problems, get out of the water.
World War II is over, man.
Well, that answers a great deal.
Nah, bump that.
Hey, listen up, I'm singing about you. You know, animals use it every day to swim and bathe and jump and play. You know they use it to breathe and cool them down. It's called H2O and it's in your town. I mean, it's so bad and it's so cool. You'll find it in every swimming pool. I mean, whales, they know where it's at, but watch out for Jaws, cause he's on the attack. And Flipper's there for you and me. Go rent-free, Willie, 1, 2, and 3. Haha, word.
Tell Peter he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying.
What are you doing just staring?
Come on, guys. No more spitwads on the set.
Baby!
Ready on cue.
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set!
Hear the music.
Quiet in the jar!
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
What's happening, everybody? And welcome back to the Jam. Today's topic, wildlife and water. Do you ever think about the water that you drink and all the stuff that's actually in it and how that stuff gets to the faucet in your house? Well, the quality of water in our rivers and streams doesn't affect only us, but it also affects the wildlife.
Buenos dias, hola, all you fat contaminated microbes.
Oh, yes, he's Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Ba-da-da.
Water is everywhere. Well, at least here on Earth. I mean, even you. Yes, you sitting on that couch with that bag of pork rinds. You are 2/3 water, and your friends thought you were all gas. Anyway, all plants and animals, and that includes you full-figured humans, must have water to survive. So, if there's water seemingly everywhere, why is it such a big issue? Well, I'll tell you, you pint-sized mineral-infested inferior life form, so listen up!
Turn it off! Turn it off! Somebody please turn the water off!
This is Camden Yards, home of the Baltimore Orioles. It's 5 hours till game time, and it takes a lot of water for 2 teams and 48,000 fans. If you don't like crowded places, sold out Camden Yards is not the place for you. But it's the place for me. It's a good thing I brought my binoculars. Looks like my seat is close to heaven. We're heading on into the stadium. I'm getting excited. Wow.
Calling all cars, I'm back! It's me, Paranoia Man, although Paranoia is really my middle name. My first name's Blaine. Blaine Paranoia Man. And there's a lot out there that they don't want you to know about. This week, the paranoia secret, the conspiracy is, water, agua. Just the common stuff that makes up most of our body. And you know, the big secret they don't want you to know about is the hydrological cycle. Nothing logical about it, people.
You've heard about it since the first grade. It's the hydrologic cycle.
The hydrologic cycle.
It's how water circulates. It's in the atmosphere. It's on the Earth's surface. It's through the soil, into the rivers, lakes, and oceans. Then it's back up into the atmosphere where it all begins again. It's a dynamic ebb and flow to which people and wildlife are all connected. It's a matter of water quantity as well as water quality.
Because you know the truth about water? The same water that we're getting raining on us today has been around for thousands upon, well, you get the idea, of years.
There are really 2 kinds of water cycles. One that nature created, and one we've created to help process the huge quantities of water we use every day. And check this, even at Camden Yards, water is used in 2 very different and yet important ways.
So, tell me some things about the field.
Well, our field is a sand-based field, which most sports fields that are constructed today on the pro end usually are. The field sits in an envelope of plastic on the bottom and the sides of the system. Laying on top of that plastic line are plastic drain tiles that the water goes into. The rainwater then travels through those plastic tiles to our drainage vault back underneath the stadium. We can also take our drainage system and turn it around so that we can flood the system with water from underneath and irrigate the field. Actually, while the ball game's being played, nobody even knows it. You don't lose all your water from evaporation, whereas if we were to turn the sprinklers on in the middle of the day, half of that water that you put out is going to be lost to evaporation and transpiration.
Evapotranspiration.
We've had game days where we've had an inch of rain in about 15-20 minutes. Well, that's a pretty good deluge. And hopefully we're able to get our tarp out fast enough so we protect the infield dirt. So we get that covered. Meanwhile, the grass system with the sand-based field that I was discussing a little earlier, that can accept a lot of water at one time. We can actually suck off this field 75,000 gallons of water per hour.
Water, water everywhere. But where, oh where does all the water go? Does it run high? Does it run low? Doctor, doctor, where does the water go?
Isn't it time to ask Dr. Gravity?
Yes, Dr. Anti-Gravity back here today. Today we're talking about precipitation. That's what we're talking about, because we got rain, and we got snow, and we got all the precipitation in between just falling to the earth. But once it hits the ground, well, then what happens? Because, you know, it's not just going to go bouncy, bounce back up into the atmosphere like we think, because, baby, the rain must fall. Isn't that a nice special effect? We planned that day. We spared no expense. Now I'm just a little bit moist, but that ain't no big deal at all. Where the rain falls, that makes the biggest difference in the world. When we got a grassy place like here in the middle of the concrete jungle, then it does exactamundo, exactly what Mother Nature intended. And you know, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. The water then creeps and seeps into the ground just like a slug there, getting all off into the ground. Then all the plants you see all this kind of greenery stuff, it slows down the water so that it gives it time to soak in. But once the water gets into the ground, then it gets cleaned. How's that for crazy? Oh, I can't believe it. That's what happens, it gets cleaned in the ground. You see, microbes are found right here, and they're itsy-bitsy tiny little organisms that you can only see with a microscope. They're tiny, teeny, like smaller than your aunt's nose hair. That kind of small. And you can only see them through a microscope. Hint, microscope, microbes, that's where it comes from. And they are everywhere. As a matter of fact, they help clean the water from the impurities, you know, the pollutants, like all that kind of stuff that gets inside of it there. Bad stuff, like fertilizers and those kind of things. They just go whoosh, and it's a little out of there. Oh, I soiled myself. And yeah, but the problem arises when water tries to flow on impermeable surfaces. These paved surfaces, they just let the water get going too fast. So when you got a sidewalk or some sort of parking lot or even the sides of buildings, it just gets the water speeding down, so it picks up all this dirt and soil and oil and debris and just nasty little bit stuff. This fast water doesn't have any time to soak into the ground, so it flows straight into the streams and rivers, where it ends up getting the water all polluted and cloudy and contaminated. And that ain't good for nobody. So I say take care of the earth, and the earth will take care of us. It just won't pay the last 10% of a tip on your dinner bill.
It doesn't take an Urkel or an Einstein to figure out that when a stream is healthy, it's better for the wildlife that depend on it. That means the fish, the animals, and even the microorganisms in the water. So the biodiversity of plants and animals in streams indicates how healthy the water really is. No, really. So basically, healthy, happy water equals healthy, happy bugs and insects. You see, water quality affects us all. That's why so many kids are taking an active part in monitoring the health of their local watershed.
The jar is strictly for Larry's head, and that is all.
This is one of the largest streams in Seattle, actually, as far as watershed. It's about 11 square miles, but it's a very highly acidified stream. It goes underneath a shopping center, it goes underneath the freeway. Look at the streets and the paving. I show the kids a satellite photo of Seattle, and Seattle is all gray. You don't get the green until you get out to the forest lands at the pass. So there's a big difference in impervious surface. There's no place to slow the water down. There are 11 different schools that are looking at different pieces of the watershed. So this is all part of the Thornton Creek website. The person who's going to drop the orange and then drop the ping pong ball. We need a catcher down here so you can get in the water with boots. Who's got the stopwatch? Diana, you're the recorder. Okay, this is to get an idea of how many cubic feet of water per second are moving past a point in the stream. So we get a velocity of the surface. Then the kids measure the depth and then figure the volume. Okay, this is a wetland restoration project. None of this was here about 5 years ago. This is all brand new. One of the original reasons to do this was to drain the outfield of ball diamond that's right on the other side of the berm. And along with that, we created a really great science study site.
Okay, if you see right here, you can see some stuff that looks like oil, except it's really not. It's a natural thing that's produced because these wetlands are restored. They didn't used to be here. And so when they're changing back into what they used to be, some weird stuff happens. And so when you touch this, you can see it breaks. It doesn't move back into place. And when you take your finger off and it moves back into place, then you know it's oil.
If there wasn't clean water, then the plants and animals around here couldn't live.
Okay, one thing about this part of the creek, all these bushes are overgrowing it, and that's kind of good for some animals and not so good for other but it keeps the creek cooler when it's sunny out, and so the water stays cooler, and that means more oxygen can be held. We're gonna do tests when we get back to the classroom, and you can see.
You may have some other kinds of beetles.
What was it?
Just add beetle to group 1. We don't know what kind it is, but we'll figure this out.
Oh my God, it's having a baby. It's having a baby.
Remember, I should put the light on here. We can see anything.
We're looking at an aquatic snail. Look at those leaves underneath. They're usually hiding under there or living there. So. Okay. So if I have a lot of these, then I got poor water quality?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 is like, I thought it looked like a red caddisfly, but then I looked at the other data sheet and it was totally different colors.
There's a lot more stuff in the ponds than there were in the creek. So our pollution tolerance indexes, when we calculated them for the creek, were running generally in the good to low end of excellent.
When we're talking about where the water is at Camden Yards, it all has to have a starting point, and it starts right here. It's a lot of water in the stadium. We use it for showers, saunas for the team, oils of visitors, restrooms.
We used 500,000 gallons of water yesterday. Where on the previous days where we didn't have a game, we used between 40 and 80,000 gallons of water.
Small days, what we just use? Clean up?
It's just normally clean up and things like that, what people use around here. We're doing 260 gallons a minute right now. During a ball game, we could use 1,700 to 2,500 gallons a minute. If you want to relate that in easier terms, if you have a 24-foot round swimming pool in your backyard, if you take and fill it with a garden hose out of your house, it'll probably take about 2 days to fill it up. Where if you had this system, you could fill it up in about 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
We're down on the lower concourse, and we'll take you in and show you where we use a lot of the water during the games. Go on in. There's roughly 300 and some toilets, about 320. Urinals, we have about 218. So if everything was to be used at one time, it would be a total of about, say, 2,000 gallons just in that one instance.
That's almost another pool in 4 minutes.
And there's even systems larger than this. If you want to take a system like what's in the Empire State Building or something like that, they have even a larger system.
This is big enough.
Wake up call, people! The conspiracy continues right here in the sewer system, which I call the bowels of the city. And it smells like it too. Feel your nostrils burn with the stench of 40,000 years. Woo! I'm awake, slap my fanny, to prove once and for all that what goes down must go further down, and I'm talking way down. Way down! Major look! Ha ha ha!
We're here at a wastewater treatment plant, and basically what this plant is it's a facility that collects the stuff that you flush down the toilet. The bar screen takes away all the boards and rags and different things that's not supposed to be in there, and it's incinerated off-site. Then it also comes into what we call our grit chambers. It's sort of like a black, sandy type gross stuff. You really don't want to see. It's really gross. We don't want the people, the residents, to be smelling the odors off this, especially the grit chamber, so we keep it covered. Our next process here is called primary treatment. These big basins have a rake that collects the floaties on top, the gross little floaties that once again takes it to a pit. And also the same process goes on the bottom. We have solids that are down there, and they're also sent to biosolids treatment. The water on top will go to our secondary treatment or our biological treatment. And the reason why it's so noisy is because we have these aeration motors churning up the waters to keep oxygen within these basins. The reason we need to keep oxygen in the basins is because there are microorganisms that live within these basins that eat the waste within the wastewater. Now the good water comes over these weirs here, and it exits at the end of this basin over here, comes floating all the way down, getting treated by chlorine, and down here is where our water is going to exit. But before it exits, it is dechlorinated. And here's where the water exits our plant right into the river. It's good water. In fact, the water is sometimes better or just the same as the water in the river.
The omnipotent head of a jar.
Oh, people will tell you water's magical properties, or that it brings life, or that it creates energy and power, but I will tell you that the greatest mystery of water is that water is wet. Yes, wet water is much better than dry water. Dry water being bottled in Avion backwards spells naive, not a coincidence. So I shall sit here in my non-wet, dry, familiar green water and enjoy myself for 1,000 ninja bites until you, small, petrified high schooler, have grown to be something quite ineffectual.
You're looking for a bunch of little guys called copepods. They've got the little bit of an antenna, they've got the eye right in the center. You'll also see some things called daphnia. You should be able to see the heart beating on along, kind of like its back, and you'll see the big antenna. If you don't have any of these or you have too many, that could indicate a problem. Okay, I'll look. Oh, wow, wow. Here's what's happening. We have a light meter. There's a sensor right here on the end. Pull it up so we can see. Okay, there's a sensor right here on the end. Our first measurement's going to be just under the surface of the water. So let's lower that down to just under the surface of the water. Okay, when you're ready, push AB for average. And you will repeat this entire process for each of the readings, the depths that we have on the data sheet. Rodrigo, why are we doing this? What are we looking for? What are we measuring here?
Measure the light in the water.
And why do we want to know the light of the water? I mean, why do we care about the light?
Well, if there's not enough light in there, the plants can't grow.
Right, that's right. Now, we know how important the plants are because why do we need the plants?
They make oxygen. Oxygen.
All right. Now this is the oxygen meter. This is the probe for it. And why are we looking at oxygen?
Because bacteria could be in the river, and if there's bacteria, they eat up the oxygen.
Right, and if all the oxygen is gone, then what? The fish die. You're going to help pull in the fish. We have a lot of different kinds of fish. That's very good. If we have only one kind of fish, then that means that we don't have as good a quality of water. Okay, pull out the fish. See if you can figure out what it is. Okay, what is that guy? Catfish. Measuring? Centimeters.
About 17.
Get whatever's in there. You gotta get them all.
12.
12 centimeter catfish? What's a little catfish?
It's
a
11.
little tiny guy. Okay, get his fur. Make sure he hears you. Yeah.
What do you got there?
Get a shot of it. Hey. That's a snake. Careful. Okay, get his line. Quickly, get his line. There you go, get his line. That's what it looks like.
It's gonna come out.
Armando, take him over very carefully. Goodbye.
So now you know. If we can keep our rivers, lakes, and streams healthy, it's good for the wildlife and it's good for us. Man, catfish, trout, salmon.
Don't understand what's going on here. Don't understand what's going on.
Holy cow! They get up to about 50 to 70 pounds. This is a small one here.
How about a backjack?
Dungeness crab, halibut, Copper River king salmon. We have fish flowing in from all over the world. That guy right there? Medium king inbound. Hey, yeah.
Flying fish.
The Copper River is the longest river in Alaska, so the salmon that spawn up it have to store up a tremendous amount of fat to make the journey. So they're really, really rich in flavor. They have a high fat content. Best salmon of the year.
And what are those?
These are oysters.
Open your eyes, people! Children, the problem is that water is a necessity to our common everyday lives, and if we use too much, that's the 2 in H2O, and we'll never have enough water to get away with the plans they have for our lives.
Let me translate this for you. It's a matter of quantity and quality. If we take care of the water, it'll take care of us.
And that, my friends, from Dr. Andy Gravity gets a big circle swoop und ja.
It's my favorite toy. Oh yeah, it's my pride and my joy. Oh, you know it's my favorite toy. It goes down the stairs, gets caught in my hair, I don't care. You know I got a metal one and a plastic one too. I got one that's neon and one that's blue. It's my favorite toy. Ah yeah, it's my pride and my joy. Oh, you know that it's my favorite toy. It goes down the stairs, gets caught in my hair, I don't care. Oh, I love my Slinky.
Tell Peter he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying.
What are you doing just staring?
Come on, guys, no more spitwise on the set.
Baby! Ready on cue.
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set. Hear the music. Quiet in the dark.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Jam. This time, we explore the mysteries of the universe contained in coils of steel and plastic known as the Slinky. All jokes aside, though, you can learn a lot about engineering and physics just by studying the Slinky. Today, we're going to take you to the center of the Slinky universe and show you how engineering plays a big part in almost how everything in the world works.
Oh, yes, he's Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Ba-da-da.
It is I again, Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Most people don't realize this, but the original prototype for the Slinky was me, my head. The only problem was, though I was bouncy, every time I would fall downstairs, it would give me a severe concussion. And now, as in retrospect, every time someone turns on a microwave, I wet my pants.
Physics, science, and technology. The exciting field of engineering. Yes, engineering. With a career in engineering, you can accomplish many things. From microchips to potato chips, engineers turn ideas into reality. But you don't have to be a straight A student, and it's not just for guys anymore. All you need is math, science, and ambition. Just ask your science or math teacher. Engineers make a world of difference.
Let's do it.
I'm in Hollidaysburg, PA, the one and only place that they make Slinkies. Now, you won't believe all the cool Slinky stuff they have here. Check this out. Mrs. James, tell me how Slinky got its start.
Well, my husband was an engineer, and he was out on a trial run of a ship. And a torsion spring fell off a table and it quivered back and forth. And he came home and said that he was going to make a toy out of it. I thought he was a little wacky, but that's okay. You might be interested in some of the strange things slinkies are used for.
Wow, okay.
They're used for pecan pickers, decorating rooms, particularly the plastic, because they're so colorful. And they're used in hospitals, which is great, you know, for therapy.
Okay.
And somebody uses them for curtains somehow. I don't know how they do that.
So tell me one thing about Slinky that everyone in America wants to know.
Well, I hope. Why does it last so long? And I think it's because it's simple, and there are no parts to wind up or no batteries or anything. I think that's it.
Tell me how the wire goes from this spool here to the Slinky that you have in your hand.
We get it in spools of approximately 1,000 pounds of wire on each spool. It's round wire. It's taken back over here, right back there, where we roll it flat, we cool it off and clean it, and then it goes to an edge winder which coils it, and it comes off. It's automatically cut to the correct length, and then it's made into Slinky.
Wow.
So that's what it looks like when it's done.
And it just springs like this automatically?
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the creation of the spring steel wire and the way it's made. I think it's real important to know that my dad was a mechanical engineer first. He was also a dreamer.
Okay.
And he took the knowledge he had, but he took common sense. He looked at the Slinky. Lots of people had seen springs take a little step. He was able to say, I think that could be a toy, but he had the background in engineering to go ahead and pull off some minor miracles, for instance, in the rolling of the flat wire.
And here he is with a brain teaser and the hair to prove it.
It's time to ask Dr. Gravity.
Welcome back to our laboratory. As you remember, last time we were here, Hilda und I und Hilda und I und Hilda. We were just getting back from the International Slinky Convention in Budapest. Well, we were able to get some of the little plans that they had there for some of the upcoming little, pardon my hair there, some of the future plans they had for some of the inventions that are going to revolutionize the future. Could you believe that or not? They get me so excited, my hair stands on end, that's why I wear pearls today, so it's all the sassy look. We look here, and the first invention is called the Slinky Earthquake-Proof Building. That's right, when the big one comes, the rest of the ground, they're going, oh, you shake me, the coast is tossed. We look at this, and you just go boinky, boinky, boinky. That's all that happens. It's crazy like that. Well, let's look at the next one. Would you like it? This is a good one called the Slinkmobile. It's called the Slinky Car, and it gets me so excited, I can't believe it, because it gets to keep you at home, while at the same time, you get to drive to your location. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe they do that. Okay, we look at number 3 here. And 3 is the Slinky Space Station. That's called the SSS, or the S with a 3 on it, or a 3 in the corner, or S cubed, or just kind of like a snake, even though it looks like one, I guess it does. And that's one of those things where it has its own gravity there inside the space station, so you can walk on the inside of the outside. Or is it the outside of the inside? Maybe it's the inside of the outside of the inside.
Gravity. It's not just a good idea, it's the law.
Oh, fear not, for I bring the truth. There are secrets about the Slinky that they don't want you to know. They want to keep you in the dark. They want to keep us all in the dark. But it's not going to work. And why? Because I know the secrets. Take an actual Slinky. You think it's just a toy. Well, that's exactly what they want you to think. Oh, but there's more. There's so much more to the Slinky. And I can tell you why. Because I know the secrets. This Slinky has inertia. Inertia! That means it's going to stay motionless and still right there, right here and there, where I put it. It's going to stay absolutely still unless one of those pesky, creepy little external forces decides to do something to it. It's going to stay right there. And as it's there all quiet and innocent, sleeping in its little crib and bed and sitting there just fine, it's shown that it has potential energy. But they don't want you to know that. Why don't they want you to know that? Because if you know that it has potential energy, you know that it can also be transformed into kinetic energy. Because if I do this, then that means that this little Slinky has lost its inertia, and the potential energy that once just crept little silently and sleepy in there is now kinetic energy. And that, my friends, is what we like to call energy in motion. You know these facts and you can rule the world. Call me right now at 1-800-555.
Enough of that. Don't worry about him. He's a little confused. All you need to know is that inertia, potential energy, and kinetic energy can all be found in the Slinky, along with a lot of other things. No conspiracy, just science and physics.
I had lost all hope of having a regular son. He was normal in every way except for one thing. He was Slinky challenged. What's a mother to do?
Luckily, I heard about the Academy for Advanced Slinky Studies.
I gave them my Slinky moron, and they gave me a Slinky champion.
Don't be a moron. If you know someone who's Slinky impaired, we can help. The Academy for Advanced Slinky Studies.
Don't you know that we're trying to do a show here?
Did you know in 1995 Slinky turned 50 years old? And they make more than 50 different kinds of Slinky toys, like this gold-plated one, and like this original Slinky, and like this dog right here, and this neon one here, and this little miniature dog right here, and this Slinky dog here.
Okay, Angie, in here is the K-resin mixed with color concentrate. In this case, it's red. This material, it's put into, this is the suction unit that pulls out the K-resin and the concentrate up into a hopper over here. From this hopper, it goes into an extruding screw, which is inside of a heated casing, in effect. It melts the plastic in there, and it pushes it this direction. Over here, you can see what's called an extrudite coming out, which is very, very hot and plastic at that point. That's one of the uses of the words plastic. It's then brought from there, we wind it, we cool it off, and it comes out as a plastic Slinky.
Okay, so that's how plastic Slinkies are made here at the factory. But let's back it up a bit, because the process really started millions of years ago. And that's because that plastic is a petroleum product. And petroleum comes from crude oil. That's been in the ground for hundreds of millions of years. Here's how they turn oil into plastic.
Initially, in locating or trying to locate a place to drill for oil and gas, our geologists will go through a number of scenarios just trying to figure out what's the best place. And when that decision is made, then as petroleum engineers, we have to figure out how to drill this well. We'll drill it, we'll get it piped into a pipeline that will carry it to a plant location.
And we process it in a series of steps. Most of it is geared towards making motor fuels of some sort, gasoline, aviation gasoline, diesel fuel. We also have some chemical products that come out of the crude oil.
So what you do is you take a large reactor, which is just like when you're cooking a big bowl. We put the two materials in there, you add heat, you add a catalyst to start the reaction, and you let it cook for a while. And after a while, these thin materials become plastics and they become hard. And what we do is we ship them out in the form of pellets. These are the pellets, K-resin pellets. You notice they're nice and clear and sparkle. These are what the customers receive. So we don't actually make the products. All we do is make the plastic pellets. And for instance, the Slinky producers, they melt the pellets, they extrude them into Slinkies. Other people take the pellets, they melt the pellets, and they make sheets, they make the cups, whatever forms they have to. It comes in pellets and you melt it, and then you do your forming. Well, there you have it. That's how they get from crude oil
all the way to this neon plastic slinky. Now, engineers have been a big, crucial part of the process every step of the way.
I'm back, and I have some more of their dirty little secrets for you. Do you want to know what they are? You do. Sure you do. You know, the first one is called gravity. Perhaps you've heard of it before. See, a few years back, there was a man named Sir Isaac Newton. Call him Sir, because that's the way he likes it. And he figured this whole thing out, and he spills the beans. See, gravity is what keeps us on the ground. It gives us weight. It's the pull of the earth. And you thought that was hot dogs. And gravity has a friend. They're like this, only gravity's over here. That friend is called centrifugal force. Centrifugal force is what allows me to sling an object around and watch it spin, kind of like a clothes dryer. Kind of like when I spit that wonderful loogie of phlegm that seems to take ever so long. It's what the kind of force that when I'm swinging around this slinky, it allows to happen. Hear the whistle? Hear the whistle? That's centrifugal force. And the more centrifugal force I use, and the faster I spin, the less gravity has an effect on it. And that is a secret that they don't want you to know. Power. Power to the engineers. Power.
All right, that's it. I wasn't gonna do this, but you left me no choice. Roll it, Hal.
Toys in Space.
Well, we had a whole box of toys, and it was a lot of fun. STS-54 flew in January of '93. We did a variety of experiments with toys. I had one that had magnetic marbles that I released about that far apart, and they actually came together, so it demonstrated that there is magnetism in space. I had a basketball and a basketball hoop, a little Nerf basketball, and we're trying to demonstrate the lack of gravity's effect on the trajectory of a basketball. Well, you know, if you had a slinky in space, you just let it go and it would probably just kind of wobble a little bit, oscillate, and maybe tumble a little bit, depending on what kind of force you imparted as you let go. The thing that would be much easier to demonstrate in space would be the wave motion. Very difficult to show that here on the ground. See, it wants to sag and drop, but on orbit, you could fix both ends and you could impart standing waves back and forth, one end to the other, oscillations at various frequencies.
Wander down memory lane back to the classic sounds of the 70s with Disco Slinky. Bump to it, baby. That's right, all your favorite hits about that fun fad toy are here for you to enjoy again and again and again. Ditch the pet rock, forget that mood ring, grab that springy coil and boogie down. It's all on Disco Slinky, baby. Ah, the days of polyester, platform shoes and hair to your navel. Remember it with Disco Slinky. So do the hustle and send $14.95 for 45 songs on 2 CDs to Disco Slinky, Box 9999, Jamestown, Pennsylvania.
Hang it up.
Power to the engineers.
No, you don't have to be a geek to be an engineer.
When I was maybe 10 or 12, the books I would read were always mystery books. And that's because I like to try and figure out the ending ahead of time. They're problem solving.
Well, to me, engineering is sort of like a game. You're trying to figure out ways to do things more efficiently, produce better products.
And that's one of the things that's so fascinating to me, is I can just look around my everyday surroundings and just see things that I can be a part of.
Don't be afraid of the technology. And if you like working with people, engineering could be for you.
When theory meets reality, that's where engineering comes in, and that's where you meet problems, you deal with problems, and you solve them. That's engineering.
You don't have to be straight A student, but you certainly have to have some initiative and some drive.
Well, when I was in high school, I really enjoyed my chemistry classes and my math classes.
Because then you have a lot of engineering classes that all branches of engineering have to take. And so that way you get to meet and socialize with a lot of different types of engineers.
Math and science gives you the theory, but engineering is the application.
Having the opportunity to stay with math and science as a base for just about any career that you choose is a good choice.
And if you find that you're doing well in your science and math classes and that you're really enjoying it, engineering is an excellent field for you to go into.
There's lots of different opportunities for engineers. Not only the technical design work, but there's futures in marketing, business.
I think engineering is a great career for a woman.
Because every day more and more women are getting into the more technical fields, and it's a good thing.
Whether you have the mechanical inclination or just the intellectual inclination to understand how things work and why they work, it doesn't depend on whether you're a man or a woman.
As long as you have a determined work ethic and you have some goals that you want to acquire and you have the perseverance to get through a lot of the academic pressures you might experience, anybody can be an engineer.
Peace, love, and always remember what the doc says.
Longitudinal waves. Got this friend and his name is Mike, and he can never make up his mind. And then he's got this cute girl and her name is Sue, but she never knows what to do. And when they want to go to the show, yeah, they never know where to go. He says, hey baby, what you want to do? She says, I don't know. He says, come on baby, what should I do? He says, I never make decisions, come on baby. He says, hey, come on, what should I do? She says, I don't care, I don't care, I don't know, I don't mind. I don't know, I don't mind, and I don't care, and I ain't got decisions on my mind.
Tell Peter he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying.
What are you doing? Just staring.
Come on, guys, no more spitwise on the set.
Baby! Ready on key.
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set. Quiet in the dark.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
What's happening, people, and welcome to the Jam. Get ready for a wild ride into the science of risk management and decision making. See, every day you have to make choices. Some will be easy and some will be hard. However, if you learn to look at these decisions scientifically, analyze your options, you'll find yourself in a better position to make the successful choice.
Paranoia man to earth, paranoia man to earth. I'm back one more time, and I'm trying to make some of the most important decisions of my life, called decision-making skills. How do you make decisions? Because all the experts means they were formerly perks before they were experts. Yes, they told me that we got to use one side of our brain, either the left side or the right side. One side thinks logically, the other side thinks creatively. Me, they just kind of mash into this blur thing, and every time I try to think and this hairdo thing gets too tight, my eye rolls into the back of my head and I forget my last name. She loves me. She loves me not. The main purpose of this whole process is that I need to learn how to make decisions. But for some reason, there's some kind of aneurysm in my head. Where do your decisions come from? Because if you can't left brain it, and you can't right brain it, and you can't be a no brain it, where will all that come from? Because until I can tap it into my brain, I'm just gonna stick my finger where it counts.
Whether you're trying to plan your own future or the future of the entire human race, the decision process is roughly the same. Looking at the decision with the scientific eye will help you to make the best choice.
Get ready.
What's the real problem? Try writing it down in 1 or 2 sentences. If you can't, you haven't thought it through.
Nice one.
What are the possible outcomes? Do your research. Talk to others who've had similar experiences. Are you willing to take the risk? Come up with as many outcomes as you can. What is the result of each solution you've come up with? Think and write it down. We all have that little voice inside that tells us if what we want to do is right or wrong. You have to be able to live with any decision you make. Make the decision, stand by it, and believe you made the right choice. See what happens. If your decision doesn't work, change it if you can. Otherwise, learn from your mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. You made the best choice you could. Grow from the experience.
Is my double latte here yet?
When it comes to risk and making quick decisions, there's nothing better than drag racing.
It's not just who crosses the finish line first. You have to analyze weather factors, car speed, and track conditions. Then decide how fast your car can go. The risks include your personal safety and damage to your car.
What is it like to be a girl that drag races?
It's pretty fun.
Do the boys make fun of you?
No, not at all.
They don't mind racing against you? Does it make them mad when you beat them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just competing with people from all around the country is fun. For instance, we're from the East Coast. I met a lot of friends from California this weekend. It's pretty fun.
Are you safe in the car? Do you feel safe, or do you get scared that you're going to get hurt?
I feel it's pretty safe because we have to wear all the stuff like the big guys wear.
Well, of course, we have seat belts, and then we wear a protective helmet, fire jacket, gloves, arm restraints to keep your hands from coming out of the car, and a neck brace to keep your head from flopping all around.
How do you decide what your dial-in is going to be? It depends. You have 3 time trials. Time trial is to give you practice with the car, and you see what you've run there, and you try to go around what you've ran.
But if you go faster than your dial-in, then you break out and you lose.
It's never really a sure guess, but you try to figure it out by putting your other runs together and just picking a good guess.
We have a humidity and temperature gauge and altitude tester. We write down what it is each time trial, then we match up the weather now to the time trial.
What makes the car go faster? What makes it go slower as far as the weather?
Lower humidity and lower altitude. More air is fast for better horsepower.
How about racing? How do you get a good light?
I usually watch the third bulb, and as soon as that's coming on, I hit the gas and I go.
Well, I used to count the lights, 1, 2, 3. But now I just watch the last show light and cut the other lights out.
You go before the third yellow comes on and go red light.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I've done that.
Have you?
Often.
A lot. Yeah. Do you watch the other driver when you're racing? Well, if he's a faster car, I just have to look around to see if I can see him creeping up on me or not. Is that hard to decide? Yeah, it's hard to decide, but you got to make that decision. Do you have a lot of time? Do you have like an hour to think about it and decide what you're going to do? Actually, you have under a second to decide. So that's what it's like to go down the track at 80 miles an hour at Indianapolis.
You probably didn't realize it, but you've been learning how to manage risk since the day you were born.
Don't you ever talk to strangers. Remember to look both ways before crossing the street, boy. Don't you put that in your mouth, boy, you might swallow it.
And the one I used to get all the time.
Keita, that dog is gonna bite you if you keep trying to put that dress on him.
Well, I've learned my lesson, and hopefully you will too. Risk management is how we try to protect ourselves. Yes, it covers physical harm, but it's also about the decisions we make in our own lives and the risks we're willing to take. Later.
And now, great moments and bad judgment.
Oh, well, hi-de-ho there, friends. Just tickling the old 88 here, and I don't mean my grandmother. Just thinking about some of the greatest blunders of all time. Here's one of my favorites. High school junior Jarvis Fechner had a little bit of a slight burning sensation in that special area where the sun don't shine. So he went to his family medicine cabinet to try and find a soothing balm. Fortunately, he found something that seemed to cool the area. Unfortunately, it was his grandmother's denture adhesive. He'll be cheek to cheek for the next few moments.
Okay, it's time for the real stuff. Every day, you're hit with hundreds of conflicting messages.
Bye, it's him, it's now, it's radical, dude.
Voices of authority telling you the right way.
When you cook with this, it's a big fat deal.
All trying to steer your thinking in a certain direction.
You can't live without it.
Somebody want to mop that up?
Live the good life.
Do you blindly follow these voices, or do you weigh the facts, check the risks, and make your own decision?
We all make lots of decisions. Some affect only us, others might affect the planet. Do you get up at your regular time for school, or do you sleep in and risk being late? Do you go cliff diving in Mexico, or do you jump out of that plane? Do we continue cloning research because of the possible medical breakthroughs, or is the risk of abuse great enough to ban it altogether? And when you really think about it, how many versions of you do you want walking around anyway?
The fact is, every action we take in life involves making decisions and analyzing the risks involved. It's not always easy, but it's our choices that can make a big difference.
Hello?
I know what you did last week.
What?
I know where you like to surf.
Excuse me, who is this? I don't even own a board.
Surfing the web, you ditz. You read Keen Teen online and love the Backwards Boys. You even spend 3 hours a day in their chat room.
Who is this? How do you know that?
Cool your jets. Your little online journeys are just a roadmap to follow.
Why would anyone care what sites I access?
All those surveys, all those memberships, all those CDs you've been buying online. What's with that? Most of those sites have sold your profile to anyone who wants it.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Surfing through sites, giving any information they ask you for, and questioning nothing. Once you find something that you want, it's fill out the order form. And that's exactly how they want it.
As if you're saying I'm not safe, and that's not true. I only give out little information about myself. Nothing big. Nobody gets hurt. Right?
Girl, don't you have a warning light in that head somewhere? It may be a small amount of information, but it's all they need. This is the information age.
Wrong again, phone freak. The only reason why they wanted my name, number, and address was so that they could send me my free Backwards Boys tattoo. And you still haven't told me who you are.
Haven't you figured it out yet?
What do you mean?
Can I interest you in our new long-distance service, ma'am?
Welcome to the age of the cyber marketer. You are being categorized, itemized, and demographically organized so that businesses can sell you their goods and services. And the information you give out shows what you like and what you buy. Mostly, stuff like this is used for market research, like figuring out the next fashion craze.
It's a beautiful thing.
But there is a potential risk with all that information lurking out there. It's called identity theft. That's when someone gains access to your credit card numbers, checking account, driver's license. They become you and start stealing your money. You might not have all those things yet, but your parents sure do. And it's probably on your computer. So be wise. Before you fill out any online forms, make sure you check the site's policy on selling your profile. Never give out important numbers unless the form is secure and encrypted. And never give out your address or other information in a chat room. Enough said.
The information on the web is truly worldwide. It's immense. But does that mean that it's all going to be high quality? Does it stand to reason that it's going to be high quality information? No, it doesn't. Anyone can publish anything on the net, so be careful. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, that's an old phrase. It goes way back to the 70s when they had mainframe computers, but it's really true. If garbage is pumped into it, what you're going to do when you get your research back is get a bunch of garbage you've got to wade through. There are web pages out there that haven't been updated in years. So you've got to stop and look. What was the date of the web page? When was it last updated? Is there a copyright on the page somewhere? The World Wide Web is the world's soapbox, and anybody can get on it. Who wrote the site? What is their perspective? What's their background? What are they trying to get across here? When you're finished reading the page, does it seem like they tried to convince you of some type of an idea? Do they give you a list of sources they used? This is a traditional way, one of the major ways you check print material. The only control you really have is your own street smarts. And basically, it's got to be a web smart. When you're street smart, you're aware of your surroundings, you're keeping an eye out for danger. The same thing goes with the internet. You simply can't turn your brain off when you get onto the web and assume that anything you see on that screen is accurate.
A virus is a computer code inside a program or a file. Some are harmless. They might put up a funny message on a certain date. Others can be a bit more destructive. The virus called Melissa tied up networks and choked computers by sending out infected emails. Melissa's spread as people opened attached files that contained the virus.
But you can fight back.
Run virus protection software on your computer and keep it updated. Never open an email from someone you don't know or download an attachment you weren't expecting. It's risk management, and sometimes it just takes a little common sense.
Facts are the best weapons against uncontrolled hysteria.
And it's for these compelling reasons, Senator, that I feel it is of the utmost urgency that we proceed ASAP with Project Rock Zapper.
So let me get this straight, General. You want to spend $850 million to build some laser thing that is going to disintegrate meteors before they actually reach the Earth?
Well, now, no. Yes, okay, yes, that is exactly what I'm asking.
Because you believe that the threat that Earth is actually going to be hit is imminent.
Now, Senator, I don't have to tell you, you watch the movies. You know all it takes is one big sweeping tidal wave and it's goodbye, San Diego. Hello, wet San Diego.
Yeah, right, General. Can you get
Now, Senator, I don't think you are sensing the urgency of this situation. There are big old pieces of rocks out there and they're just whizzing. That's what they're doing, they're whizzing. They are just whizzing by. And they are trying to find themselves without any rhyme or reason. The whizzing technically doesn't rhyme with anything but whizzing. They are trying to find themselves a big old planet that they can just, swoosh, and just smack it and spank it. That's what they want.
I don't know. I just think we're spending an awful lot of money.
Well, you know, we've also got one of them big lip super rock groups that's gonna record a, popular song. You know, the kids will really love it. You know, like, and I don't want to miss my tang. You know what I'm saying?
Excuse me, Senator, if I may.
Yes, McGuire.
So, General, you're actually saying that one of these meteors is going to hit the Earth and that it's necessary for us to build one of these laser thingies?
Miss, I unabashedly stand by my proposal, Agent Sir.
Well, General, if I might point out some scientific probabilities that the actual chance of it hitting the Earth is 1 in 10 to the 6th power. And actually, no human in the past 1,000 years has been hit or even killed by a meteor.
Okay, wait. No human in the last 1,000 years. Well, excuse me, panel, for thinking that is just a little bit naive of you to think. I know it's not something you want to talk about, but deep down in those places that we don't want to touch, we don't want to talk about, like in that little area of your navel where you stick your finger digging for lint and you go, you know what I'm talking about?
General, please.
Go ahead. You just go ahead and you let downtown Detroit get destroyed by the downtown Detroit. And the monkeys come and they put the Statue of Liberty and it's destroyed and there's people, soylent greedy people.
Well, the National Children's Film Festival is a program that gives young people an opportunity to express what is of concern and interest to them. It's not as threatening as getting a message across to another person standing right in front of you. It also allows them to use critical thinking skills and to work in groups and teams.
The film that I did for the National Children's Film Festival, it was a film called Freedom. One thing that really surprised me that was difficult in making my film was, I guess, getting people to accept what I was trying to do. Before I entered the film festival, even though I wanted to be a filmmaker, I didn't think I could do it. But then one day I decided, hey, I'm just gonna go out, I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm just gonna try and do it. And I think all that pays off in the end.
It's called Things Aren't As They Seem, and our film is about these three characters who have a superficial life, and then below that they have like a life that is not as it seems. I used to be a really indecisive person. I wasn't able to make a clear decision, but now with this I've been able to get more on top of it.
You have to be very, very meticulous, I think, to be a filmmaker. You have to weigh all the pros and cons. You have to look at everything. The first step, and definitely the most difficult step that I went through in making my film, was the pre-production, the writing of the script, the planning.
I get together with some of my good friends that are writers, and I brainstorm with them, and we figure out what kind of concept or video we want to do. We write it, and we come up with a full script, and then revise it, and then prepare to shoot, and then revise it again. We have to determine whether we can realistically pull those off in time, or if we can actually do it so they look good.
I think that they are taking a big risk because they are out there and they're talking, I think, about their feelings and emotions. It's a life-changing experience.
Take a risk and to do whatever your heart desires.
It's just great and fun to come out here and shoot a movie, to have like a common goal for everybody.
Let's review this whole decision process thing. What's the decision? Think it through and write it down. Think of all the possible outcomes and the end result of each. Be sure to do your research. Okay, it's time to make the decision. See what happens. If it's not working out, fix it if you can. Otherwise, learn from your mistakes. So get out there and think smart.
Here's the big picture. There are a million ways to make decisions. You can look at a situation this way, or this way, or this way,
or this way, or that way, or this way, or even this way,
or this way. But things often have a better way of turning out when you look at them logically. Weigh your risks and benefits, and quickly calculate which outweighs which. All I'm saying is, look long and hard before you leap.
Good morning, sports fans. Move over, Jeff Gordon. Slide aside, Tiger Woods. Get out of here, Dominique Mochaluco, or all you little gymnast babes at the age of 13. There's a new king and queen of sports right here. It's time for me to do the most extreme of all extreme events, and I'm talking about rocket-powered paracycling. Yeah! That's right. Me and my faithful engineer friend Bucky, don't ask how he got his name, it stems back to third grade insults as a child. We have manufactured this cycle to be fully accomplished with a 3,600 horsepower multi-stage C4 engine that will launch me from 0 to 80 miles per hour in just between 2 and 3 seconds. Oh my word! How can this be accomplished? Why would I do what others have considered foolhardy? Who are those 2 Cuban refugees living in my apartment? I do not know, but I do know this. I have weighed the options. I have considered every arrangement, and all I know is when I do this, chicks won't be able to keep their hands off of me.
You know there's a lot of trees before you hit the end of the cliff.
Oh, ye of little faith. Don't you know that this is an accomplishment that any of us can do at any given time at all? I've got 1 bike, 2 wheels, we've got the trajectory in 1 area, and you can quote me, we'll be heading off into perfect nirvana. It even smells like Teen Spirit.
Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion. Every action has an equal or opposite reaction. Isn't that amazing, children?
In other words, not even an airbag is going to help him if he hits those trees.
All right, Bucky, throw the switch.
You know, I like you, but you're pretty stupid.
Ha ha! Let's kick this mother out. Say, oh, for the love of Pete! Mommy, 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 mommy.
Told you so.
got a long way to go, and you're having a real good time, just listen to your radio. But then your car starts to slow down, and you've barely made it out of town. And then you look at the gas gauge and say, oh gee, cause the thing is stuck on E. That's when you come see me. I'll pump your gas for free. You'll be my #1 fan, cause I'm the gas man. Yes, I'm the gas man. Yeah, yeah. I'm the gas man.
Tell Keita he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying. Come on, guys, no more spitwise on the set.
Ready on cue. Roll 10. Hear the music.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
Once again, y'all, welcome to Headjam. Today we're gonna take a close-up look at energy and petroleum. Did you know that petroleum is our biggest source of energy? That's right, 65% of the energy we use comes from oil and natural gas. Oil alone accounts for 95% of the energy that we use for transportation. So that means gas in our cars, jet fuel in our planes, and diesel fuel in our big trucks and our trains. It's amazing what a little technology can do with stuff that comes out of the ground.
Crucial.
All right, I always thought petroleum and oil were basically the same thing. And that's true, but that's only half the story. When petroleum is a solid, it's known as asphalt. When it's a semi-solid, it's known as tar. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff that you see on the roads or even what they use to cover up roofs. This is what it's called when it happens naturally. When petroleum is a dark, sticky liquid, it's known as crude oil. Now, when that liquid is clear and flammable, it's known as condensate. And then there's natural gas, which can be found with oil or on its own. All of these forms of petroleum are natural resources found on and below the Earth's surface. It takes many scientists and engineers to find petroleum from all over the world and turn it into energy and products that we can use.
Oh yes, he's Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar. Ba-da-da.
Hello again, you kerogenic and planktonic oozing molecules. It is me, Larry, the omnipotent head in a jar, back to infuse those tiny gray matter cells of your being with some vital information on today's topic, which is hello, petroleum, Latin for rock oil, and used exclusively this tour by Ricky Martin. Petroleum has existed throughout the centuries. Those wacky, crazy, flesh-eating Babylonians used asphalt to pave roads and seal boats, though exactly whose fault it was is not for certain. Tar was used by Egyptians in the preparation of their mummies and their mummies-in-law, as well as to keep some hair pieces in place. The oil was also originally used as a medicine. It has been said that it made a very effective laxative. Not that I would know. I have no body! In ancient times, oil was known as bitumen, which is what mothers-in-law were known like in popular times. But no one knew where it came from. As usual, that hole-in-the-wall philosopher Aristotle, who thought he knew everything just because he's embedded in the history books, but no, he gets all his wisdom from his fellow friends sitting on the shelf next to the books that he never creases open.
I tell you, everything around us is made up of earth, air, fire, and water. These elements are combined with warm and dry or cold and wet exhalations from the earth to form what we feel and see.
So the Earth just pukes this stuff up?
Well, it's just a theory.
Well, at least Aristotle was on the right track, and did inspire many other theories over the years, as well as the song You Spin Me Right Round Baby Like a Record. Several other oil noteworthy events happened along the way, from Marco Polo discovering the great springs of oil in Persia and a clever swimming pool game, to the creation of kerosene in 1849, which was a good thing since it replaced whale oil as the major fuel for lamps, and many network news weathermen were in danger. Finally, the modern age of oil began in 1858. The first well in North America was drilled in Canada, next to a small troop of comedians. And the next year, Colonel Edwin Drake drilled the first well in the U.S. the petroleum industry was off and running. Of course, there was that whole olive oil thing back in the 1960s, but that's just me flexing my cerebellum. Oh look, I've had an aneurysm.
Hang it up.
Today, petroleum is a huge industry. Isn't it amazing? Stuff that looks like this is actually a very valuable natural resource. It's kind of cool though, because it's not just used for gasoline and other fuels. Oil is the raw material used in several things that you see every day.
I'm afraid dinosaurs are not a major source of oil. Well, I think we all know the dinosaurs got wiped out at the end of the so-called Cretaceous 65 million years ago, and we see a lot of oils that are younger than that. So they were made at a time when there weren't any dinosaurs. And we see exactly the opposite. We see oils that are much older that formed before any dinosaurs evolved. Most of the oil is probably made from small creatures that grow in the oceans, things like algae, diatoms. Well, it starts at the surface when the rocks are laid down as sediments, and you get some organic matter in the sediments, and then they get buried with them and heated up. And it's just like cooking something. It depends on how hot your oven is and how long you leave it there. So if in the laboratory you go to very high temperatures, then you can do it in a very short time, maybe a couple of days instead of a couple of million years.
We know that petroleum is formed deep within the Earth's crust as organic-rich rocks, such as this one here, are heated, at which time they begin to generate and expel both oil and natural gas. We can mimic this process in a shorter time in the laboratory by simply taking small amounts of this material, loading it into a test tube, and then heat it with a Bunsen burner at temperatures in excess of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We can see now a slight amount of fogging and gas being formed. This is also some vapor oil forming, and soon it will be condensing on the outside of the test tube. And while that oil is forming, we can even light that natural gas. And we have our natural gas actually burning while we're generating oil. The biggest problem we have in making oil in the laboratory is the problem of cost. It costs a lot of money to generate this kind of oil in high-pressure reactors. We have to take into account the amount of energy we input and how much energy we can obtain from that oil.
What's happening is we've found all the easy oil. So now we're having to find oil that is in more expensive areas. And the question is going to be, how much can we afford to pay for it? Because it's just going to get more and more expensive as we move into deep waters offshore, much deeper in the subsurface. And we're being able to find oil in more difficult environments because of the improved technology.
Okay, tell me how you guys chose this site.
Okay, we have many different ways to choose a site. We will shoot seismic and interpret the seismic data. And we may have somebody else that's drilled another well, and we'll look at their results of their well. Once that is done, we will take a structure map and figure out how deep we have to drill. It could be anywhere between 8,000 and 10,000 feet, and we'll find the location. So once we get all that approved and the landowner allows us to stake the well and we get a permit to drill, we'll go ahead and build the location, bring in all of our equipment, drill the well. Once we get the well drilled, we have other equipment that we run in the hole that determines whether or not we have oil, gas, or water in the well.
How do you know if you're going to get natural gas or if you're going to get oil?
We will take the cuttings that come up to the surface and they evaluate them under a microscope. And they can tell us what they see in these rocks.
What happens if it's not good?
Well, that's what we call a dry hole. We'll drill the well, and if there's not enough hydrocarbons to pay for our investment, we will go ahead and plug it and try to restore the location to its original site. You have to be able to produce enough to pay for all your investment. And not only just the cost to initially drill and complete the well, but after that you have to operate the well. We're in the R.P. Thomas number 2 location, and this is called drill pipe. And drill pipe is just screwed together as we drill down the well. You'll notice as we're drilling, once they make a connection, they'll take one of these drill pipes and screw it into the one that just went into the hole.
What does horizontal drilling mean?
Okay, horizontal just means just what it says. You eventually get parallel, flat. We start with drilling a straight well, then we start building an angle and eventually get up to 90 degrees, and then we drill at that same 90-degree point. What that allows you to do is to be able to reach more formations out of one well bore.
The well that you're looking at over there is actually pulling up natural gas way over there.
It's used a lot offshore because of the cost to set a platform in water. As you go with deeper water, the cost to install a platform increases. So what you want to do is be able to reach more formations from just one site.
Remember natural gas? It's closely connected with crude oil, because usually when you find one, you find the other. Sometimes, even with all the new exploration technology, the engineers don't even know which one they're going to find. Many times, it's the pressure of natural gas that helps force crude oil to the surface. Natural gas is important because it's clean burning and there's plenty of it. Different mixtures of natural gas are used for everything, from making electricity to powering factories to heating our homes and even cooking burgers on the grill. It already accounts for 25% of our energy, and that number will go up in the future. Now that you have a better handle on petroleum, you need to understand what else it's used for besides energy. Scientists and engineers have figured out a way to take this stuff out of the ground and make it into thousands of different things.
It's a problem that millions of Americans face every day. Paper or plastic? Ah, plastic. Where would the world be without it? I'll tell you where. We'd be back in the dark ages, like without email. That's because plastic's everywhere. Our houses, car, school, work, everywhere. You can find it in high-tech places, like computers, hospital operating rooms, even race cars and electronics. Or low-tech places, like drink bottles, toothbrushes, even plastic seat covers. Which, by the way, might be a little tacky, but you know how much that couch costs. But there's nothing low-tech about plastic. It can be formulated many different ways for many different uses. And if you haven't already figured it out, it's time you learn. Petroleum is the mother of almost all modern plastics. Petrochemicals, those are the chemicals that come from oil and natural gas, are the key raw materials in making plastics. The magic happens when the chemicals are heated, mixed together with a catalyst, and voila. A heat-resistant automotive part, vinyl siding for your house, a pacemaker for your grandfather's heart. And it's probably lighter and stronger than the material it replaced, like plastic bags at the grocery store. One paper sack weighs as much as 7 plastic bags. So this is my plastic watch, and my plastic CD, and my plastic credit card, and this is my plastic smile.
Oh, they have pineapple tidbits. Hello, welcome back. I am Dr. Anti-Gravity and here once again. And today we are looking for products which have petrochemicals. You may be saying to yourself, what has petrochemicals in it? Well, I'll tell you, lots of things. And that's things that have oils and natural gases is what they're made from. So we're here in this big grocery store because they got all the things and because they're the only place on the planet that did not stick their boot in Atoshi. Looking for the petrochemicals, and there they are. And the ibuprofen reduces fever and is made by natural oils. Who'd guess? Post-it notes, they have got the petrochemicals in the sticky stuff. And that's how they make it sticky, so you can write phone number, mom called dad, stick it on dad's forehead. Dad walks up to mom, she goes, I'm supposed to call you. He says yes, he goes, it's too late. Hello, how you doing? Good morning to you. And I'm so excited. Oh, there you are. Because we got all these other things with petrochemicals, and it's not just on the plasticky on the outside. No, we got all the cool stuff like the fluoride, the toothpaste, on the mouthwash, and make sure the kids are fresh. I could make a better umming sound if this one pinched my nostrils. And don't hate me because I have beautiful hair. Was that a good audition for the makeup thing? See, do I got the bedroom eyes? Am I looking all wonderful? Even detergents have petrochemicals. You know, some of them got a lot of them, like this old tub here in case you gotta wash your pet elephant sweater. Shampoos here, they all got little bitty petrochemicals, and what makes them wonderful. Even here on the floor of a grocery store, we got what we call the petrochemicals in the tiles. Guess what's in the makeup that you put on your face? The rouge, the blush, the little nose pickers, you know what I'm talking about? It's petrochemicals. It's in all this stuff. Insecticides, that's right, but we kill all the buggies with. Some of them we got them kill them faster, kill them slow so you can watch them burn, and kill them with a nice minty new car scent. We got that, and then of course we got the Teflon on the pan. What do they have in common? I'll tell you, they got petrochemicals in common. That, and they both kill the bugs. This way in a way that kind of sprays up the room, and this one, and we got ourselves a little snack before the lunch meal. Oh, I'm losing control. I'm lost control. I'm by the poo balls. How would we have ever gone along without the petrochemicals? I don't know. It makes me all teary-eyed, just like that Celine Dion song that you're playing up there. Those Canadians really know how to bring out the emotion.
This is the future, or at least the future of energy-efficient transportation. This little baby is part gasoline, part electric. It has ultra-low emissions and one of the highest miles per gallon of any car ever made. It's called a hybrid car, and I get to take it for a little spin. Car emissions are 20 times lower today than they were in the 60s. But with 150 million cars on the road, exhaust emissions and fuel conservation are going to be big issues for a long time. I had a car like this. I would probably drive all the time.
Welcome to the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve, a 37,000-acre ecosystem. It's a dynamic balance between different species of grasses, bison, insects, and fire. But that's another story. Long after the Oklahoma land rush, oil was discovered here. Back then, the salt water, or brine, that came out of the well was just left on the ground.
What we're trying to look at here is, in this particular site, we had a significant brine impact that is historic, beginning probably back maybe as far back as 1917. There are 5 very, very old wells here. We had a significant brine impact early on that has become a rather bad erosional scar. What we're trying to do, first off, is understand why is the salt still here? That has been a real puzzle early on. Then, once we understand that, we can begin to understand how can we best fix it, how can we remediate this? How can we come back to the site, repair it to either return it back to the tall grass condition or to give it its best chance of recovery. At that time, when they completed the well, you get salt, brine, you get oil, you get gas. The brine, they just let it flow. Brine was not bad. It was simply a byproduct, a natural byproduct. The brine in this particular case is a subsurface produced water that came from depths of maybe 600, 1,000, 1,500 feet. The concentration of sodium in that water is about 10 times more than you have in ocean water, seawater. The reason that the brine, the salt here, is such a problem is that it kills plants. It changes the structure of the soil. It kills off bacteria, so basically it is devastating to the local ecosystem. And so it really boogers up the surface environment. Beginning in the late 40s, early 50s, people became aware that brine was not necessarily a good thing. All of the producers here, everywhere in the world, are extremely careful about brine. You separate it out, you use a separator tank that basically allows the oil to float to the top. Brine stays at the bottom, you collect that water off the bottom, you pipe it and re-inject it back into its natural environment.
And that's that. Petroleum is going to play a big part in our lives for decades to come. Until we find a replacement source of energy, we'll have to continue to make cleaner burning fuels and use them wisely. And remember, it's you future scientists out there that are going to figure it out.
Most experts believe that there's enough oil to last the next 60 to 90 years. There's no need to panic, but we do need to pay attention. The petroleum and automotive industries, as well as independent inventors, are busy working on solutions. This is Sylvia Rosanna Yada Yada.
They were rolling.
Reporting live from the possible birthplace of this new alternative fuel.
How do infants wear these? You sweat down the small of your back.
Right now, we're looking at a possible new fuel device.
Be a ventilation
transportation
zipper of some sort.
Excuse me. Could you please tell us what type of mileage this thing?
Of course I would, but first you must answer me a question. What was the question?
Mileage.
Yeah, mileage, all right. Well, see, what we do is we've inserted special things in here that are ground up. See? Oh, that's a pain. It's gonna last for a long time. The mileage we receive in this vehicular cavity is a very special one, excuse me, because it happens on passion fruit. You see, just a common tomato, they'll give you maybe 33 miles to the gallon. A grape, you can go maybe 3 miles on that unless it's a diesel.
Here we are. The fuel has been added. The engine is ready. Let's see if history can be made.
Yes, history will be made. I think we all know that I'm just about to solve the world's energy crisis alone. Oh, that's gonna chafe the buttock. That's not what they said. Neil Armstrong said something very different. I'm ready.
He's ready, folks.
History.
Let's watch
this comes out. Don't like that. Okay, this is where history happens, girl. Of course, if nothing happens, it's still history, technically, but you know what I mean.
I'm gonna need to wear these.
Here we go. 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. All right, count down in Arabic this time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kiss my honey, speed to heaven.
Once again, this is Sylvia Rosanna Yada Yada reporting live from what could have been a world-changing event and what turned into a catastrophe.
Can I borrow a hot, moist towelette?
You idiot!
That's a no.
Be nice to the birds, and they'll be nice to you. But if you're mean, they'll poop on you. Yeah, oh yeah. Now, when you look up in the sky and you see one flying by, you better watch out, 'cause it might just poop in your eye.
Mother of Goody Goo.
Tell Keita he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying.
What are you doing? Just staring.
Come on, guys. No more spitwise on the set.
Baby! Ready on the... All right, here we go. Quiet on the set. Hear the music.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
Hello again, and welcome to the Jam. Today, we're all gonna flock to our fine feathered friends. Consider the birds. It is estimated that there are nearly 9,000 different species of bird here with us on Earth. Blue jays, blackbirds, purple martins, and a few other shades as well. You know, when you sit down and really think about it, that's like billions and billions of birds. All over the world, birds are being counted, documented, and protected. One of the neat things about birds is that no matter where you live, be it the city, the suburbs, or the country, you can get involved with birds. And you don't even have to go outside. So today, we look at birds, the people that look at birds, and even the birds that look at us.
It happens on a boat called the Carefree Learner. Kids counting birds, protecting habitats, and getting involved.
It's different than most classes because like you get like to go out and interact with like nature and stuff and get hands-on experiences and stuff, and it's just nice being on the water. And
how did you find?
For each of the 3 islands, we write down the number of birds, the number of nests there are, the number on the nests, the offspring, and just the total number of birds we see all together.
What we'd like to do is to protect these islands by having a no-wake zone in here, and the students are using their data to petition the state for that purpose. They have already asked the state to put no trespassing zones here, and the signs you see on the islands were actually erected by the students.
Mangroves are the saltwater trees.
They're what traps the sediment for the islands to build and maintain their same size and shape. And because of the wake, it's eroding the islands away and making them smaller, and the mangroves are eventually dying.
It moves the sand ultimately, and the mangroves are here to hold the sand in, but they can only do so much, so.
And as they die back, then there's less and less islands for these birds to nest on. You know, the students are very aware and cognizant of the problem. So if we can help the public understand that this is really one of the last strongholds and these species have nowhere else to go, and if we can get them to put a no-wake zone here, we might be able to slow down the erosion and protect these islands.
Well, when we were freshmen when we started, I was like, basically, yeah, okay, we're going out on a boat, we get to get out of school, this is cool, you know? But yeah, like the more we study it, the more I realized how this really does affect our like daily lives living in Sarasota, because you know lots of people own boats in Sarasota, and they're just by driving by in their boat, they're ruining the habitat for the birds.
So if we do our part and we just keep sending in data and showing them that what's happening, what the boats are doing with the wake, and what's happening to the islands, and eventually maybe we can help slow down the process of what's probably naturally going to happen if nothing's done.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we need to cherish, and it's something that's important to us. So yeah, definitely, our mindset has changed.
Cable Channel 39 presents visiting ornithologist Ingmar and Vespa. They will be discussing their observations on birds of the world.
Und der Glockenspiel und der Kai und der Mi und der Vespa
und der Schmetterling, der ist ein guter Mann.
Und der Fleisch und der Birdie und der Lessen und der Unterklaufen fließen. Vespa.
Erstens, der ist der
und der Waschen und der Plumage und der Waschen und der Molten und der Waschen und der Hatchen und der
Dann kommt der Eier.
Oh, schön Bleiben und die Schellen und die Ägge.
Und ein kleines Baby. Oh,
Gut. Autschen! Und der Blistering und der Iden und der Sieden.
Aber das ist gut.
Und der Lanchonen mit der Farbenjugend.
Das ist schön. Und auch so. Und auch die.
Oh, schön. Und der Kleinus und der Arten und der Flächen. Und der Bei und der Mi und der Vespa und der Frau.
Und der Schmetterling.
Ingmar and Vespa, thank you very much.
One of the greatest things about bird watching is you can do it anywhere. I mean, I get to travel all over the place to look at birds, but my favorite place is right in my backyard, because even in a city, you can have birds anywhere. Even in New York City, you can see hundreds of different kinds of birds. I mean, they're everywhere, so it's something you can do no matter where you are.
Now, the center itself, what we try to specialize in is in satellite telemetry, aka the satellite tracking of migratory birds. And basically, we're looking at the tundra peregrine falcon to understand bird migration. What's migration? Moving from one place to another. Moving from one area to another area by means of instinct or by means of planning it out. But why do birds migrate? Why would a bird go through all that trouble to cover thousands and thousands of miles in order to migrate. Why we go through all that trouble? One of the three big reasons I see as far as bird migration is food source. That's one of the big ones. There's a whole food source up here for them. There's a total niche up here for them they can take advantage of. They can come all the way up here, start feeding like crazy, be more successful breeding, and that's the key. Another reason is not only food sources competition. What about a lot of our native tropical birds that are here, our perching birds, that are very different colors. Say we had magnolia warblers or yellow warblers, or indigo buntings. Really colorful birds, which you only see in the spring, originated from South America. Another aspect is genetics as well. It's ingrained in a lot of birds to keep going. That's a trait. In order for them to survive, that trait has been passed on by many and many, many generations in order for them to keep migrating. Where do they live? You don't know where a tundra peregrine falcon lives? Tundra, there you go. That's where they breed. Their breeding areas is in the tundra. This bird will be following its track from the tundra all the way down to South America because it's instincts, it's genetics, it's in its genes. It knows it has to go there. What we use is satellite transmitters. And what these do is they send a signal to a low Earth orbiting satellite. And it's a Doppler signal. So it sends up, the satellite collects the data as far as where this transmitter is. Wherever this transmitter is located, it'll send a signal to the satellite to tell it where it is exactly. Satellite telemetry really helps us. Every single bird we put a transmitter on, we know where it's wintering. We know where it's going.
Right down to a couple hundred feet.
Yes, exactly.
And we can go right to where they're wintering and spot them and say this is where they are, that's what they're feeding on, and this is the habitat. We can say if there are chemical contaminations in the area.
The only way we were able to get this answer was by following the peregrine falcon, because our little dicky birds can't handle any of these. So we have to use a sentinel, somebody to represent migration, and that guy did a really great job.
Bin ich ein Vögeln wir? Und nach zwei Vögeln hat's das Flügel zu dir.
Und spitting und der Lüge und der Fliegen.
Part of it is that birds are such a part of our everyday lives. I mean, it's probably the most common type of wildlife that we see. They're around everywhere, and I think sometimes we take them for granted. And what we don't think about is that birds are really indicators of the health of our ecosystem. And if there are lots of birds around, like we're seeing here, then we're probably in a place that's pretty healthy. But if we came out here and there were no birds, then we'd have some real problems. There'd have to be something else going on here that we'd want to learn more about that was causing the birds to be absent.
Nice one!
Avian hypercommunication test number 31. After rerouting the flux capacitor through the picoforms compensator, I have created what appears to be a multi-phase pulse wave that is spread throughout the area. Have commenced communications transmission but have had no response from any birds. It's got to work. Birds, dinosaurs, aliens, the connection is there. I know they hold the key to life on other planets. What secrets can I unlock? The origin of birds, the mechanics of natural flight, how to pick up chicks by breaking a funky groove.
Hold it, mister. Birds, their nests, eggs, and even the feathers are protected under federal law. Don't mess with the birds.
Or are they just the morons of the sky?
The tiniest bird in the world is the bee hummingbird. It also lays the smallest egg, about ½ an inch long. The biggest bird in the world is the ostrich. It lays up to a 4-pound egg. That is a big egg.
It's thought that the very first bird was the Archaeopteryx. It lived about 140 million years ago and was the size of a crow. Similar to a reptile, but not really one.
Well, sometimes you have to be kind of a detective to find birds out here. We're out in this great spot, and there's all this great habitat, and I can hear some birds, but I can't see any. So we're going to play a bit of a trick on them. So I'm going to do my owl call, and we'll see if any other birds come out here. Here we go. And And sometimes when they hear the owl, they start to scold it. So I'm going to imitate the scolding sound. It's a great way to get the birds to come out of the brush so you can get a look at them.
It might be only a friendly blue bird called a scrub jay, but these students are learning a lot from it and doing their best to make sure it doesn't become extinct.
Probably go on field trips 6 to 8 times a year to different habitats, a chance for them to get out and view Florida's different habitats as we would with any other state, wherever we were. It's an opportunity. They've been introduced to one, and hopefully they'll continue to carry this on and learn more about different species.
We want this bird to be the state bird for Florida, and one of the debates was, you don't see them everywhere. So that's why we make environments like this, hopefully to increase the population of the bird. Therefore, nobody can complain about not having enough anymore.
Certainly puts a name and a face on the things that they're trying to conserve and learn about. It's one thing to look at pictures in the book or even on TV, but it's another thing to go out and actually experience the things firsthand, which is what the students are doing out here.
I didn't know anything about the bird before I started, and then once I got started, I learned so much, but not only about the Florida scrub jay, about my environment, about its environment, about a lot about endangered species, plus we've learned a lot about government. I'm an outdoors person now. I love camping, I love going on hikes, I love doing stuff like this, and this is what started it.
Mr. Cole was the one who really introduced me to the scrub jay and how it was a endangered species and it was an important bird, to our habitat. And I fell in love with these birds, and I try to come out here when I get time to.
Well, I just like going out into a natural state and being able to, communicate with the animals. I mean, see them, view them, see how they live. Ever since I started coming out here, it's been something that I've really enjoyed, and I come out a lot.
Birds actually walk on their toes and keep their heels in the air. They also have no teeth.
Hang it up.
Primarily, the Sutton Avian Research Center worked throughout the southeastern United States, and we released eagles into Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, and Oklahoma. So what we did was we went down to Florida, which has over 600 nesting pairs, and we would pick up eggs out of the nest, which is much easier said than done, I can assure you. We would have to climb these 100-foot trees, and we would collect, around 60 eggs per year. And we would then drive them back in a motorhome. From the time that we picked them up, we had to have them in an incubator because they have to be kept within 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit in order to hatch them. We would then raise them by using puppets, which we fed the young eagles with, and so they would not be tame. We wanted them, of course, to be wild, and then we wanted them to be imprinted on their own image. Then we built 30-foot towers that were barred on top, and we would put the young birds in there at about 8 to 10 weeks of age, and they would stay in there 2 to 3 weeks, and during that time they become fixed on that location. We would release the eagles after they had spent a couple of 3 weeks in the tower. They'd have radio transmitters on them, and they would home back daily for 2 or as much as 3 months to this tower and get food that we placed out for them. And in doing that, they learn to hunt on their own. They don't need to be taught by their parents. It's genetically programmed. And they would eventually disperse. The first year after we released birds, say here in Oklahoma, we had 1 bird back in the spring, but it wasn't long before we had birds nesting again. And now, here in Oklahoma, where we had no eagles nesting at all, we've now got about 33 pairs back nesting as a result of our release program, and there's similar numbers in the other states where we work, so we're very proud of that.
What's happening, my people? Right on. It's me, your fellow Funkadelic, just here trying to get you to understand a little something about the birds. Yes, I'm here to defend the birds. Why? Because they ain't do nothing to nobody. They minding their own business, flapping around, just trying to find a little nest to call home. It's why I got my hair like this. Anyway, I'm just here to let you know it's all about defending the birds.
We're trying to learn scientific things like population of certain birds and where they migrate when, and the numbers of males and females.
You know, we have birds that are migratory in this country, some that migrate south for the winter. We even have some that breed in the south and migrate north for the summer. So we have migration going different directions. We even have migration going from the east coast to the west coast and from the west coast to the east coast. It's the insect eaters that we find are include most of the migrants, because in the wintertime, there's no insect food available for them, unless there happen to be a woodpecker. And then they can dig their insects out of a tree.
The bird will come and it won't see the net. As you see, it's not real visible. And it'll come right into here and it'll bounce into a bag. We have a bird here. This bird doesn't have a very strong bill, so it's not gonna hurt really if it bites. Other bigger birds would hurt a little bit more. If you don't know what you're doing, the best thing to do is just sort of stay away and you can watch it, but don't try and catch it.
Wild birds are protected by both the federal and the state government. Any work with wild birds, any handling of them, any manipulation of them requires special authorization.
You can kill the birds. There's a high risk because they can become very stressed out if you don't know how to get them out of the net properly. I think I finally got it. Yes, we got it. We got it out. Yeah, it's a nice catbird.
Bird bands come in a string of 100 for songbirds, and they are in numerical sequence, and they have to be used in numerical sequence in order to keep the record straight. Okay, and now you've got it. There you go. You're gonna slip that all the way in and squeeze as hard as you can. Got it.
Sometimes birds can be tagged. Again, what they're doing, they fly back into the net, and you'll catch them again, and you can see when they were last dated, and you'll still record this band number. He's ready to be released.
To release it, we don't toss it up in the air. We just open our hand and let the bird go. If the bird is held on its back, it doesn't realize that it's not being held, even though you open up your hand, because a bird normally has no pressure on its back. So if it's got pressure on its back, it thinks it's still being held. And you can hold it like that, and it just thinks that it can't get away. But if we turn that bird over, off it goes.
What kids need to understand is that birds are just so important as part of our environment. I mean, they do so many different things. For example, they're one of the best forms of natural pesticides that you'll ever find. Birds eat millions and millions of pounds of insects every year, everything from the mosquitoes that bite you to the bugs that are eating your mother's roses. And so they're great to have around for that reason. They help regulate the environment they're in. They control the prey species that are out there, and they're food for other species. They're just part of this web of life that's so important for people because we're part of that web too.
Attention all units, we've got a runner. Roger. He's going 10-26 to 3.
You are so dead!
Roger there, 200. He's running like a scared little wuss.
I'm hoping on you!
All right, I got a lock on him. You're clear to fire. Fire one. Well, let me tell you something. You respect the birds, and they'll respect you.
Fly by, the coffee und das Billen.
Schön. Schmetterling, zweitens.
Wo sind die Eggen? Eggen ohne Melonen.
Vögel,
Unter
das
die
ist ein
Pyramid.
schönes Gefühl.
Nee.
Doch, das ist der Vögel. Der Vögel?
Oh, zum Fly, zum Klein, gut.
Das war's. Am I on? Is this thing on? Hi, I am now reporting live from the scene where it is absolute chaos here. In fact, we are looking at what looks to me to be absolutely no science here. And oh my gosh! It looks like right is now left, left is now right, up is now down, down is now up. I can't really put into words exactly what I'm seeing here, but it's utterly amazing, folks. And now we'll take it back to you in the studio.
Tell Keita he's on in 15 seconds.
Simple, yet satisfying. Come on, guys. No more spit wires on the set.
Baby! Ready on the...
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set. Quiet in the jar.
It's showtime.
Get ready to jam, man. Let's get ready to jam.
Hello and welcome to Headjam. Today on the Jam, it's the big world of science. We're going to take a look at the many ways that science plays a part in your life. Almost everything you do, see, or touch has some aspect of science somewhere in its past. Take this 2-liter bottle of root beer. Over 100 years ago, food chemists began experimenting with the flavor, but the formula has been developing and changing ever since. And the bottle itself? Well, science has had its hand in it in several different ways. Back in the day, it was the glass bottle, to the tin can, even to aluminum, all products of science. And nowadays, we have plastic bottles that have been designed and engineered airtight to hold in all of those wonderful bubbles that make you burp. This is just one way that science works to make our lives so much better. From the foods we eat, to our houses, even to the clothes we wear. Applications of science are everywhere. That's right, it's all about applied science. That's when science moves into the real world to solve real problems.
It's a conspiracy. There are people, they're out there, and they can find me. They know how. They can tell if I've been around. You see, they've got the technology. It's something called forensic science. Whoa! They can take even the smallest little tiny teensy speck of dust and they can match it to stuff that you've left lying around the house. They can test hair, fibers, paint, and my personal favorites, blood. You see, they put them together and they see what matches and what's similar and what fits. They can tell if you are really you by your DNA. Anyway, that's how I know they're out there. And that's how they know I've been around. Yes. Hey! Huh.
Crime scene evidence comes in all shapes and sizes. Forensic scientists at the Federal Bureau of Investigation perform more than 1 million investigations a year. The goal is to recreate a picture of what really happened. Think of it as a puzzle with some of the pieces missing. Forensic scientists use their knowledge of science to complete the puzzle.
Every case that we have, the question is, could this have happened and can we show that it could have happened? So really we're kind of a fact-finding mission every time we do a case.
The process begins in the scraping room, a room that's thoroughly cleaned before and after each use. It's critical to keep the evidence from being contaminated.
We want to make sure that there's nothing in there that we're going to introduce to the evidence. We want to make sure when we take that evidence out, what's on the evidence is what we're going to find and nothing else. What we're looking for are hairs and fibers. We have actually other people who may look in the same debris that we have for soil or glass or paint chips or any other residue. So really, anything that's on that clothing is probably going to get looked at by somebody. Okay, the way we do a hair comparison is using a comparison microscope. And this is just two microscopes joined by an optical bridge. So it lets me look in one set of eyepieces and see two hairs side by side. Because we have it in a mounting medium which allows us to see the internal characteristics, it's those characteristics I'm using to do the comparison.
Forensic scientists at the FBI use a wide variety of scientific tests as they examine evidence.
Paint chips come in on victims' clothing in pedestrian hit and runs, or the paint chips may come in from a medical examiner at autopsy. Sometimes we're able to come up with makes, models, and years of one particular color. Other times it could be this particular color from this auto manufacturer or this color from this auto manufacturer.
One scientific process that has become essential in criminal investigations is DNA typing. Investigators can now prove if a suspect is connected to a crime scene.
In order for us to carry out comparisons between crime scene evidence and individuals, we only need to look at a very small part of that. Postage stamps, cigarette butts, envelope flaps that are licked, just about anything that contains biological material is fair game for forensic biological DNA analysis.
When we find one that we consider a single stain coming from a single event, then we'll circle that, test it to see if it's a biological fluid. And in this case, we're looking for blood.
DNA typing is an extraordinarily valuable tool, and you hope that forensic science puts enough pieces of that puzzle in that even though some may be missing, the jury can still tell what that picture represents.
Well, miss, you need a job, and I'm the fella to find it for you. So tell me, miss, is it Skainki?
Science?
Science. Oh, so just a whole lot of those suckers are silent there. Miss Science, why don't you tell me about yourself so that I can find you that job?
Sure. Well, I have a lot of experience in problem solving. Many, many, many successes, a couple little failures.
Failures?
Learning experiences.
Oh, okay.
I have lots of new ideas, sir.
Okay, yeah, shush. Before you just prattle on, how about we take a look at the resume? I think that can give us something concrete and valid and large. This is a little big for what we call a resume. I think we need to work on what people might call a cover letter.
This is the cover letter. Can we bring in the resume?
That's not a resume, that's a rainforest. How about we do what we call editing? We hone down the pages, maybe take one.
You want me to take out penicillin, atomic energy, what?
How about, oh, there's the migraine. How about we just start with your most recent accomplishments, okay?
Well, I'm very proud of what's been going on with the Human Genome Project, exploration of Mars, artificial intelligence. I like to see myself as a problem solver, really. It's a cycle. Question, answer, new question, new answer, new question.
I was looking for something a little bit more concrete, something that we could actually use to get you a job. But since you have absolutely no qualifications whatsoever, how about we find you something at the mall? It's called the science of the hot dog with the corn surrounding it. Capiche?
Weather is critical information, whether you're deciding whether to wear a short sleeve shirt or a long sleeve shirt to school, or whether you're deciding whether you're going to need to take shelter from a tornado or a hurricane or a winter storm. So weather affects everybody's lives.
Here at the National Severe Storms Lab, we study all kinds of severe and hazardous weather, including snow and bigger thunderstorm complexes that might rumble across the plains all night long, you name it.
Scientists, like Daphne, are working to better understand the Earth's complex weather and storms, especially tornadoes.
We know a lot about the kinds of storms that tornadoes come from, and we're pretty good at forecasting that kind of storm. But those storms don't always make tornadoes. In fact, very few are the really bad ones that you hear about. I've always loved science, and I've been involved in some of our field work where we've gone out with instrumentation and driven right up around the vicinity of a tornado, for example, and you're looking at the storm because it's right there, and it's sort of like hunting in a way. You don't really know what's going to happen when you leave home, then you take your chance on whether or not it does. It may not seem like much, but the distance between the bottom and the top of the storm can be as many as 11 miles or more. Okay, so we're talking the top of the storm might be 50 or 60,000 feet. If you look at that on the Earth, that doesn't seem very far. With the atmosphere, that is a big, big difference. That's why storm spotters are still important.
We like to think of the National Weather Service as where weather begins. The weather information, whether it's surface observations or radar or forecast, begins in your local National Weather Service forecast office. We hope that research, new radar technology, new training with forecasters, increased spotter networks will help us detect those storms and issue better warnings.
In terms of severe weather, we still don't fully understand how and why hail forms. We still don't understand all the processes involved in rain and rainfall and how much rain you'll get from one storm or another storm. That sounds really fundamental, but it's true that we still don't have some very fundamental pieces of what's going on with the weather.
Meteorology is, first of all, an inexact science. We're not able to forecast with 100% accuracy what the weather is going to be. And so it really doesn't matter what TV station you're watching, whether it's a cable channel or your favorite TV weather person, they're getting their information from the National Weather Service. Now, what they do with that information when they get it is up to them.
Weather is not the only way science protects society from Mother Nature. Scientists around the Earth are working to develop better ways to warn us about natural events. South American scientists are studying volcano activity in Chile.
Esto entonces provoca una necesidad.
Man no longer studies the volcanoes out of pure scientific interest, but because he wants to know what it's going to do and how it's going to affect him.
Debe conocer su comportamiento.
In order to monitor volcanoes' behavior, the volcano will exhibit certain symptoms of what it's going to do in the immediate future. For example, a volcano may increase its seismic activity, or it may change its composition of the gas it emits, or the volcano itself may swell physically. One of the techniques which has proven most reliable in recent years has been the measurement of seismic activity. For this reason, we place seismic monitoring stations with seismometers in the volcanoes, and these stations send a signal via radio. The signal is sent to a station where it can be logged on a computer. When there's a sudden change in number or type of seismic event, this alerts us to a possible seismic problem.
Scientists have created a traffic light system to warn about potential volcanic activity.
So the observatory is not only a place where we carry out scientific study, but we also contribute to the safety of people who live nearby.
I think worms are just cool. I mean, they just really are cool, because worms are creatures that we see out there, but we don't really know a lot about them.
There's more to earthworms than going fishing. These worms are solving a problem by turning food waste into rich compost that will help grow more food.
We actually start the process in the kitchens. Before we start our food waste program, all of these types of materials were going either in the trash or down the drain. And these materials that you see are basically just part of the kitchen prep waste when they're preparing the meals for the day. Somebody had scrambled eggs for breakfast. Got some cucumbers here too. The bananas, and they are the favorite of the worms. Worms actually kind of slurp the food up, so it's real important that we grind the food. We have a grinder. It's not always clean work, because grinding up food can get a little messy sometimes. Well, this is a 6 by 8 foot worm bin. It's a industrial-sized container that actually houses about 50,000 worms. We use red worms in this worm system. Red worms are the typical worm you might find if you turned over your leaf pile or to kick over a manure pile in a farmer's field. Sometimes people think I have night crawlers, the big old juicy worms, but night crawlers actually live too deep into the earth to be the right kind of worm for this type of system. Put some food waste into it along with some of the newspaper that you see, because the food waste in combination with the paper creates the perfect environment for them to be able to live and breed. So as they would eat the food and process the food, they would just work their way to the surface to continue with their feeding frenzy. And the bottom part of it then is actually finished product. The worms themselves aren't the only ones breaking down this food. Of course, there's other microbes and living organisms within the worm bin that help break the food down before the worms actually can get to it. So it is really quite interesting. If you were to grab a handful of compost and throw it under a microscope, you'd see a lot of living creatures there. They're just a natural part of dirt and, you know, organisms that work together.
Hello, I'm back with more that you need to know because, believe it or not, children, there are people who want to know everything about you and everything about me, little old me. But I don't like the man looking over my shoulder. I am the man. So I shred everything. That's right. Every piece of information I've ever had, shred it all right here so that nobody can see it. Of course, sometimes the shredder's just not enough. That's why I go to the next level. Worm-o-matic! That's right. This ain't no namby-pamby shredder, people. It's science! Although even though the scientists who use real worms have got something going, I have the secret weapon. Sour gummy worms. Woo-hoo-hoo! The sugar really breaks everything up. See, I told you there wasn't a chicken in there. And at the same time, when I'm done, I've got a nice little garnish for my veggie garden. Now, come on, where's the bird in here?
All right, drivers on the line. Human players on the mats. And 3, 2, 1, go!
The battle is on. Robots and high school students in a national competition all about science and technology.
We've just built it over last year, and it's been a continual process, basically.
We were picking up boxes this size. This is actually a type of box, and we're picking them up and stacking them in a zone.
Basically, you tried to knock boxes into your zone, but it turned out the main strategy was just knock everything over. There wasn't really much stacking involved.
It's pushing the entire stack over onto the blue side.
I think it's a combination of engineering, a little bit of science, and technology. It's basically engineering because we had to fiddle with a lot of things.
We had to learn about basic pneumatics to make the arms move in and out and up and down, right?
And also we got to use a lot of technology with wiring the brain, doing the program that actually enabled the robot to run.
Although that was technology, it was science in the sense that we had to figure out the turning radius, how much power we could put through.
I'm always afraid they're gonna break it. Well, 50 years ago, people thought of robots in sci-fi movies, kill robots, kill! In the 70s, robots was a dance. It wasn't anything you had. Now it's something that's on TV.
It's really possible that in the future, we could actually have robots in houses. They might not be extremely sophisticated.
Like the RoboVac that are just wheeled that do simple tasks.
Definitely not any robotic nannies or anything among that nature because they'd blow up probably.
Nobody 30 years ago would have said that we would have had computers in our houses. But now we do. Everybody has a computer in their house.
Maybe in 10, 20 years, we'll have robots in our backpacks and at home.
I think ultimately we'll end up having them.
Nanotechnology! Nano. It's a size thing in a whole new world. Think of a guy over 6 feet tall. This fly is 1,000 times smaller. Inside the fly is the nucleus of a cell that's 1,000 times smaller again. Go 1,000 times smaller again and now you're in Nanoland, a place where scientists are developing tools that might change the way we live.
So the idea is, can you take small entities like molecules and use them for individual functions? That function may be as an electronic switch, it may be as a transistor, it may be as a memory element, it may be a machine, it may be a truck, but now you have many of them. You say, well, how much function could a truck have at this small dimension? Well, the truck couldn't carry that much. But if you have a lot of trucks working for you, if you have 10 to the 23rd trucks working for you, you can move a lot of material. So just the sheer number allows you to have tremendous power at your fingertips.
You can build a nanometer scale piece of material to make a better computer, to make a better sort of airplane wing, or you can also build one to make a better type of medical spectroscopy. So the idea is that nano is a tool that we can use and apply it in many, many different areas.
I want to stand here someday, not too many years from us, here, and hold a new crystal in my hand, something I can feel and touch. This single crystal will be the best conductor of heat in one direction of anything that's possible in the universe. In addition, it'll be so strong that if you bend it back and forth, it may not be possible to break it. In tension, it will be 100 times stronger than steel, the strongest thing in the universe. Somebody is going to make this. I'm convinced. I do not yet know how, but that's part of the fun of the game. Try to figure it out, find a path.
In 50 years, I think that this whole nano business will be everywhere. It's going to turn into something that's as ubiquitous as plastics. You know, plastics and polymers are everywhere in our life. We don't even think twice about it. It's in our packaging for our cereal, it's in our CD cases. And I think a lot of nanoscopic materials are going to become that way. They're going to give us much better materials and much better technologies, but it's going to be a part of the fabric of our lives, and it's going to be everywhere.
There you have it. Everything we do, see, touch, and feel, it's all there. Science. It's a way of thinking outside the box, asking how and why, and applying our knowledge to making the world a better place. That's what's up, y'all.
When they say of something, this is going to be delectable. Another cake ruined, but I followed the recipe, sort of. Oh, what's a man to do? Help!
Don't worry, fair citizens. We're here to help.
That's right. We'll save you from this kitchen disaster. We're the Science Twins.
Brain on!
Twins. Right.
It's a science thing. You know, powers of the universe, hero type stuff.
Never mind that. You're just 3 simple science facts away from cake success.
Egg whites have 2 proteins, which when brought together form a glue, which becomes a stable foam structure.
That's your cake.
That explains a lot.
The heat of the oven warms the air, which expands the batter to make a fluffy cake.
Remember, hot air takes up more space than cold air.
The right time and the right temperature help the proteins coagulate in the oven.
That means they become solid. Now, you do want cake, not pudding, right?
Wow. Thanks, Science Twins. I understand now. But what about my cake?
Thanks to the power of science and the magic of television, we just happen to have this lovely cake.
Farewell, citizen.
Circle snap peeps.
Don't miss the next exciting knowledge adventure with the Science Twins!
Okay, so Miss Science.
Science.
You know, you've done, it says you've done research at universities, corporations, with the government, basically for everyone, everywhere. And so, what problems that I have you solved?
Let's start with the weather. With the research that I've done, we've been able to develop ways to forecast and predict storms much, much earlier in advance, which helps save lives like your own, as well as farmers and...
Weather girl. Huh? Huh?